hello racers and race fans. My name is John and I'm your host for the Maritime Pro Stock Tour's podcast. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. The RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150 from Riverside International Speedway on June 29th. Well, it's June 30th now. I slept on it, but I wanted to do this quickly so that I could get my thoughts out while they were fresh in my mind. And there's a lot of thoughts. Listen, first of all, we shared the track yesterday with NASCAR Canada Series. What a treat to see these guys back at Riverside International Speedway. Hadn't happened since COVID. In 2019 was the last time they were there. And they put on a great show yesterday. First of all, I guess we should say they put on more of a show than they were initially supposed to yesterday. The original schedule was supposed to be Saturday was going to be the Proline 150 with the Maritime Pro Stock Tour's RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150, followed by the Scotia 150 on Sunday. Well, a rainy forecast on Sunday changed all of that, and we ended up seeing all three 150 lap features on the same day. Not only that, but you also had Nova Scotia's own Danny Chisholm scheduled to run, Saturday. He was going to run the Proline 150. And that was going to be it. Donald Chisholm was scheduled to run the 89 Celtic Ford Nova Racing entry that day. And then Danny was going to get back in the Janny King number 19 on the NASCAR Canada Series on Sunday. Well, guess what? Plans changed, and Danny ended up being slated to run all three races that ended up being scheduled on the same day. So Danny Chisholm was scheduled to run basically 450 laps of racing at Riverside on Saturday. And we had the chance to catch up with Danny after the Maritime Pro Stock Tour practice on Saturday. Here's what he had to say. Probably little did he know that was the last interview he would give before his very first win on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour.
So here we are continuing our post-practice pit walk. Just found one Danny Chisholm. Big day for you, Danny. I guess change of plans. You're going to be taking part in all three 150s today.
Yeah, 450 laps ahead of me. It's going to be a long day. I've never done any more than a 250 in my life or in a single day or ran that many laps before. So I'm excited to get to run all three. It gives us lots of opportunities to hopefully get a win. I just hope that we can get the first two 150s in and still be running in the third one.
So you're fresh out of qualifying and practice with the Pro Stock and with the NASCAR Canada Series on the same track. Are you driving both of these cars the same, or what have you noticed is different?
Very different, very, very different. The NASCAR Canada car doesn't really turn the center like the late model does. Late models are super sporty and wrap the bottom really, really well. The NASCAR Canada car is a little bit more sloppy, but when you get to the throttle, it's a big difference. The thing takes off on you, so it's kind of just a little bit of a learning curve when I jump between each car, but kind of in my element in the 89, and we just hope I can get it all figured out in the 19 and make it happen in both.
So what spurred the decision for you to run all three races today?
I don't really know. I guess it just kind of happened that way. Donald gave me the opportunity to run all three. I'm super, super thankful for them for trusting me to, hoping that I'm not going to get worn out. I think I'll be all right. I try to do my best to stay up on my physical activity, so I should be okay and should be able to make it all 450.
Well, Danny, good luck today. You've got a 150-lap race with NASCAR Canada to warm up before our Pro Stock feature. Good luck today.
Thank you very much.
Now, it ultimately didn't end up playing out that way because in his first race on the NASCAR Canada Series in the Proline 150, for which he qualified great, 7th spot, mechanical failure cost him the race and he wasn't able to finish. So that one was off the books, and then it was time for him to hop into the 89 Nova racing car And spoiler alert, before we get into a recap of all the action of the day, he actually ended up winning that race, his first win on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. And again, we'll get to that in a little bit, but boy, was he ecstatic, and you'll get to hear a little bit from him post-race as well. Now, before we turn it over to all of the action that was the RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150 on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour, I would be remiss if I didn't at least try to get some comments from the other series that we shared the track with, NASCAR Canada. Again, great to see them back in Antigonish at Riverside International Speedway for this race. And I did have the chance to catch up with one Andrew Ranger before the race, before the Pro Line 150, that is. Andrew was coming into the race as the points leader on the NASCAR Canada series, co-points leader, I should say. A lot of momentum after winning at Eastbound, after winning at Chaudière in Quebec. And Andrew loves Riverside, and here's what he had to say about it.
So, very different grid walk here today on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour Hot Pass podcast, because we found Andrew Ranger of the NASCAR Canada Series, Poirier Racing. How are you today, Andrew?
Very good. Very happy to be in Riverside again.
Yeah, it's great to see NASCAR Canada in Riverside again. Hasn't happened since COVID.
Yep.
What do you think of the track today?
I think the track is fantastic. You know, it's a nice track, nice banking, and it's all great to be here to see the fans. And it's a track like that I really like. You know, it's fun to be back here.
Andrew, obviously you won the last 2 races on the NASCAR Canada Series. A lot of momentum coming in today.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's been tough the last 2 years, but to win 2 in a row like that, like we did and last weekend and the weekend before, it's awesome. We came back here with a nice push, and I think the team are ready, and we're ready to fight tonight actually.
All right, thanks, Andrew. I'm gonna go watch my boys now.
Yeah, perfect.
See ya.
So nice to speak with a quality guy like Andrew Ranger, so generous of his time, so happy to do this. Thank you, Joe Chisholm Jr., for the introduction, by the way. And then let's move forward to after practice and qualifying was done for everybody, there was a joint autograph session held on the concourse with NASCAR Canada and the Maritime Pro Stock Tour guys, and that's where I got the chance to catch up with a few of them, including one Kevin Lacroix on the NASCAR Canada Series side. With some foreshadowing words, I have to say. Listen to what he says about him being a road course racer, but still enjoying Riverside.
So here we are on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour Hot Pass podcast, and we found one Kevin Lacroix during the autograph session. Kevin, how are you today?
Very good, you?
Good, thanks. How does it feel to be back at Riverside?
Honestly, that's I'm more like a road course driver, but that's pretty much the only oval track I like. It's the best oval track I've been. It's great to be back here.
Great to see you in Nova Scotia. Best of luck today, Kevin.
Thank you.
Now, I didn't get to speak with him a lot, or definitely not as long as I would have liked to, but I didn't want to hold up the autograph line, so just a few quick words. And I quote, I'm a road course racer, but when it comes to ovals, Riverside is the best oval track I've been to. And boy, did that turn out to be right, because not only did Kevin win the Pro Line 150, he also won the Shoko 150 later on that night. So a double-header win for Kevin Lacroix on the NASCAR Canada Series at Riverside International Speedway. You know, for a guy that considers himself more of a road course racer, I guess he's pretty good at ovals too. Now let's switch gears to our own Maritime Pro Stock Tour RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150. At the same autograph session, I got the chance to get a word in with Russell Smith Jr., driver of the 88 Nova racing machine. Russie's been gaining confidence ever since Petty. We didn't race that day, but they figured out the shock program. Very happy with the QA1s, and as he told me on that day, because we got a couple practice sessions in, he did feel that the car was night and day different, and he was hoping for a good result at Riverside on Saturday. Here's what he had to say after practice and the heat racing was done. Here's what he had to say about how he felt about his ride.
So here we are, middle of the autograph session with the NASCAR Canada drivers and the Maritime Pro Stock Tour drivers. I'm here with Russell Smith Jr. in the 88, near the top of the board in practice. How does the car feel?
The car feels good. It felt good ever since we left Petty, and we haven't changed much other than gears and just go through the car. It's pretty well the same setup, all 3 tracks. We had a really good car last weekend in Halifax, just bad luck, just like normal for me. And I don't know, hopefully we can get something done today.
So the shock program really made a big difference. As I talked to you a few weeks after that, and you told me the car was night and day difference. So that thing is starting to pick up some speed, isn't it?
It's definitely picking up momentum, and if we could just keep that consistency we talked about, but it isn't really our year on consistency. So right now we're just digging for that win.
This is round 4, and we'll hope it comes today, Russ.
I'm hoping.
Thank you very much. The 88 of Russell Smith Jr.
So before we got underway for the RJ Poirier 150, you can tell that the confidence was there for Russie and the 88 Nova Racing team. They had had a great run in Halifax the weekend before, leading late into the race, even gapping at some point around lap 95. But unfortunately, some mechanical gremlins caused him to have to pull the car in, and they didn't end up completing that race. And unfortunately, as you'll hear, it was much the same story this week at Riverside International Speedway for the RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150. Russie had a fast car, was battling with the front group all night long, but ended up getting tangled up in that big wreck on the competition caution restart at lap 120, and ultimately was only able to complete 130 of the 150 laps. So, finished third in his heat race that day, but again, bad luck, ended up getting caught up in a wreck and wasn't able to secure the finish that he wanted. While we were up there, we also got the chance to catch up with the 08 of Nicholas Noggle, the winner of our previous feature, the Nova Truck Center's 150 in Sport of Special Olympics Nova Scotia at Scotia Speed World the weekend before. And Nick, obviously, as you'll hear, had a lot of confidence in the car, in the crew, a lot of momentum coming into this one as our previous feature winner. But same story for him. Ended up getting caught up in that huge wreck at the competition caution restart on lap 120. Here's what he had to say before the race.
So I'm just going to squeeze in here, boys. So we just found the 08 of Nicholas Noggle signing autographs for NASCAR Canada and the Maritime Pro Stock Tour fans. How's it going today, Nick?
Good. I think the car's solid for today.
So I saw you were fifth quickest in practice. How does it feel? What changes are you going to have to make before qualifying?
It feels really good. I'm looking forward to the heat race there. We pulled off early, and I'm happy where it was. I wasn't too worried about chasing top of the board or anything today. Just wanted to make sure I had a good solid car under me for 150 laps around this place.
So obviously you won last weekend at Scotia, carrying in some momentum into this race at Riverside?
Yeah, it definitely helps us. It helps my confidence, helps the team's confidence. I'm looking forward to running this one for sure.
Well, good luck, Nick. I'll get you back to signing autographs.
Thank you very much.
Last but not least, we also had the chance to speak to the 13 of Austin McDonald pre-race during that autograph session. Whereas Nicholas Noggle won his heat race, Austin McDonald did not. Started towards the back, finished towards the back, but he still had a lot of confidence in the car and, was looking to sort of a good long run car to make his way through the field on that day. And boy, did he, finishing a close second to Danny Chisholm on the final restart. Here's what he had to say before the race.
Just found the 13 of Austin McDonald at the fan autograph session with NASCAR Canada on the Pro Stock Tour. How are you today, Austin?
Pretty good. We're working on the thing. It's struggled a little bit at the start of the practice, but we definitely found what we needed to do, I think, and just working on making it better.
Well, you're near the top of the board, not the very top, but what changes do you think you're going to have to make for your heat race?
I think we're going to free it up a little bit just in the center, make it turn a little bit better. I imagine we'll have to do the same pre-race, kind of unaware of what this NASCAR rubber is going to do to the track, so we'll have to kind of take an educated guess on that and just do the best we can.
Yeah, they're going to lay down 150 laps of rubber before you guys get on. How do you think that's going to affect the track?
I think it's probably going to make the track greasy. I mean, we're probably going to lose grip and probably lose front end grip and rear end grip, so we'll just have to account for that. I mean, I think it'll majorly get tight out there, I would imagine, but like I said, the best we can do is just take a guess on that and hope it works out. If not, we'll pit. We had some good luck with that last weekend, and I think it's very doable to pit and come back and win.
Best of luck to you today, Austin. Thanks for this.
Thank you.
So that wraps up your pre-race comments. Now let's get into the wild and crazy action that was the RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150 at Riverside International Speedway. So as we headed into Riverside to the RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment Repair 150 on Saturday, June 29th, Here's who we expected would be with us. You had the 08 of Nicholas Noggle from Dartmouth, the 0 of Sam Rogers, the 11V of Jordan Vino, the 13 of Austin McDonald from Pictou, the 25 of Ryan Van Orscott from Antigonish, local, of course, home track for him, the 25G of Gage Gilby from Enfield, the 29 of Greg Proud from Springvale. You had the 30 of Stephen Lively from Shubenacadie. You had the 31 of Chris Reed from Fort McMurray, Alberta via Cape Breton. And you had the 32 of Chris Hughes from Brackley Beach, PEI. You had the 36 of Gary Elliott, the 41 of Mike Rogers from Moncton, the 42 of Kyle Reed, of course, brother to Chris Reed in the 31. You also had the 51 of Tyler Smith we were expecting. The first time Tyler Smith piloted the car this year, I think Mark Leclerc had done the job so far. The 54 of Jarrett Butcher, the 88 of Russell Smith Jr., and the 89 of what was supposed to be Donald Chisholm, but was actually piloted by Danny Chisholm. And that's, spoiler alert, big things happen there. So that was the field we expected going into the RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150. We also ended up getting a bonus entry, if you will, from Placentia, Newfoundland. The 56 of Josh Collins joined us as well. So to take the green flag, you had an 18-car field on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. And so before the racing even got started, we had a few storylines to watch out for. We know that Nicholas Noggle, the 08 Bricon construction car from Dartmouth, won the last feature, the Nova Truck Center's 150 at Scotia. Was he going to be able to keep building on a final sort of return to fortune, if you will, for the 08 team? Was Jarrett Butcher going to keep carrying a lot of momentum after finishing first, and second in the first three features of the year? How would Gage Gilby fare? Off to a strong start, very, very high at the top of the board on the championship so far. Second in points, I believe, after some good finishes. Would we see luck turn around for Ryan Van Orscott after a wheel bearing exploding at Scotia? Would there be some action between Greg Proud and Nicholas Noggle after Proud spun Noggle at the previous race? So, no shortage of stories to follow. But before the day even started, there was a big scheduling change. That was probably the first big story of the day, is that because of the very rainy forecast in Antigonish, NASCAR Canada decided to have its two feature races on the same day. We're supposed to have the Pro Line 150 on Saturday and the Shoko 150 on Sunday. Everything was condensed into Saturday, so you now had a Maritime Pro Stock Tour feature sandwiched between two NASCAR Canada feature races. So fans got to see 450 laps of racing that day. And Danny Chisholm, although he didn't end up competing in the last NASCAR Canada race because he was the victim of mechanical failure in his first race, ended up running at least, a lot more than the usual 150 laps that he's used to running. And he's, of course, going to be our big story. I had a long conversation with him last week, and I think, like I said before, I was the last interview he did before the racing action got underway on Sunday. And we'll start with him because as we got practice underway on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour, guess who was fastest after the just about hour-long session of practice? Yes, it was the 89 of Danny Chisholm at the top of the charts with a 15.197. Jarrett Butcher wasn't far behind with a 14.268, but as we'll see, he had, I think, fuel issues later in the day, and really an atypical run for Jarrett, who ended up several laps down. Not a good day for Jarrett Butcher. Third fastest in practice was Russell Smith Jr. You knew the speed was coming after a couple of, subpar finishes, I guess you could say, for Nova Racing earlier in the year. Fourth on the board was Austin McDonald, Nicholas Noggle, Greg Proud, Kyle Reed, Ryan Van Orscott, Mike Rogers, Jordan Vino was your top 10, with Gage Gilby just looking on the outside. So you knew, these were the cars that were fast in practice. That's not necessarily representative of who's going to have good pace in heat races. or the feature itself. It is often telling, but not always. So that was your top 11 after practice. Then we moved on to the heat races. In Heat 1, you had the 0 of Sam Rogers starting alongside the 56 of Josh Collins, followed by the 32 of Chris Hughes and the 31 of Tyler Smith, followed by the 36 of Gary Elliott and the 30 of Stephen Lively. Your Heat 1 results were Sam Rogers actually held the lead for the 10 laps, followed by the 32 of Chris Hughes, who picked up one spot, the 30 of Stephen Lively making his way from the back, the 51 of Tyler Smith, and the 36 of Gary Elliott. The 56 of Josh Collins had problems and pulled off on lap 6, so he did not complete the heat race. Heat 2, you had the 42 of Kyle Reed starting next to the 25G of Gage Gilby. The 41 of Mike Rogers was behind them alongside the 25 of Ryan Van Aeroscott and the 11V of Jordan Vino in the back. And that race ended as it started. Really a bottleneck between the 41 of Mike Rogers, who seemed a little bit off pace, but nobody could get by him. It's only 10 laps. Sometimes that happens. And then in the third and final heat race, you had the 08 of Nicholas Noggle starting alongside the 29 of Greg Proud, followed by the 88 of Russell Smith Jr. and the 54 of Jarrett Butcher, followed by the 13 of Austin McDonald and the 89 of Danny Chisholm. That race ended with the 08 still up front and with the 89 picking up a few spots, coming in second in that heat race, followed by the 88 of Russell Smith Jr., the 13 of Austin McDonald, the 54 of Jarrett Butcher, and the 29 of Greg Proud finished last after starting second. So it was interesting to see the 08 and the 29 start side by side after the incident that we saw at Scotia Speed World the week before. Nothing happened. The guys kept it clean and everybody finished. Nicholas Noggle won, and the 29 of Greg Proud could not hang on to his second position and ended up coming in last in that heat race. So what that meant for your starting order for the feature was that the 0 of Sam Rogers would start on the pole alongside the 32 of Chris Hughes. The second row would be comprised of the 42 of Kyle Reed and the 25G of Gage Gilby, followed by the 41 of Mike Rogers, then the 25 of Ryan Van Aeroscott, followed by the 89 of Danny Chisholm and the 88, his Nova Racing teammate, side by side, Russell Smith Jr. The next row was the 13 of Austin McDonald and the 30 of Stevie Lively, followed by the 08 of Nicholas Noggle and the 54 of Jarrett Butcher. Of course, being feature winners, they cannot start any higher than 11th, followed by the 11V of Jordan Vino, the 29 of Greg Proud, and the next row saw the 51 of Tyler Smith and the 36 of Gary Elliott, followed by the 56 of Josh Collins and the 31 of Chris Reed, and that was your starting order for the 18-car field. That was to take the green flag. Well, my initial impressions before the drop of the green flag, after watching practice, after watching the qualifying heat races, is that the 29 of Greg Proud just didn't seem hooked up. And alongside that, I also noticed the 54 perhaps being intentionally conservative in heat races. Heard him say on the radio, look, we can't win it in a heat race. Let's just stay where we are if we can and not wreck anything. So he had confidence in his pace early on. The 89 of Danny Chisholm, of course, was fast on the short run. We're used to seeing him go fast on, a practice or qualifying 10-lap heat race. We're just waiting on the day that he would put it together for 150 laps, and we didn't know it yet, but it was going to be that day. On a day that we found out that he was going to be competing scheduled to be competing all 450 laps, the 2 NASCAR Canada Series races and the Pro Stock Tour feature. Danny ended up qualifying 7th for the Proline 150, got involved, I shouldn't say got involved, it wasn't an incident, mechanical failure, something broke, spun the car, and that was it for his NASCAR Canada races that day. Now, as the green flag dropped on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour feature, the 29 of Greg Proud didn't last long. I mean, at lap 2, he spun out in turn 4, lost a left rear, it looked like, and headed for the pits. And that was it for the Screamin' Demon, number 29 of Greg Proud from Springvale, PEI. Only completed 2 laps with us at Riverside. Just bad luck. I mean, the tire, spun out, the tire came off the rim, and that was it for him. Chris Hughes was in the lead for the restart after that. That did bring out a caution. And by lap 7, the 42 of Kyle Reed was in the lead, and he was going to be one of our front runners all day. That was clear. Kyle had a lot of speed. His first race with us this year, and he came to play. Was very fast all race long. The 0, Sam Rogers, just got hung out to dry early on, and the 41 and the 89 were able to pass him, and he just started falling back. The 30 spun on lap 3 and brought out a caution. So Stevie Lively, we're fast forwarding a little bit now, but obviously was able to keep going after this, but ended up getting caught up in that big wreck on lap 120. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So lap 3 caution is brought out. Your restarting order were the 42 of Kyle Reed next to the 41 of Mike Rogers, the 32 of Chris Hughes, the 89 of Danny Chisholm. Behind them were the 25 of Ryan Bynera-Scott with the 0 of Sam Rogers. So you can see, right away on lap 3, Sam Rogers, who'd started on the pole, had fallen back considerably through the field already, followed by the 88 of Russell Smith Jr., the 25 G of Gage Gilby, the 08 and the 13. Actually, forgive me if I have my 25s confused. I've never been a fan of allowing 2 cars to have the same number on the same track. I know that there's the 25 and the 25G, but listen, both cars are red and black, and the G is very small inside of the 5, so they're kind of hard to tell. I think that was the restarting order. May I recommend not allowing the same number on the same track anymore, but that probably is not going to get anywhere, but we'll see. Lap 16, guess who took second place? The 89 of Danny Chisholm. So he started 7th, and by lap 16th, he was in second place. And we know this of Danny. That's his style. He's fast early, always has lots of speed, practice qualifying. So, at this point, my thoughts was, well, he's going to be up there until lap 75 and probably start to drop off. But listen, happy to be wrong for our own Danny Chisholm to pick up his first feature win here, spoiler alert. But that was the story so far in the race. Another story in that race is that by lap 22, you could clearly tell that the 54 of Jarrett Butcher was just way off the pace. The thing didn't sound good, didn't look good, and I think Jarrett ended up having some fuel issues that cost him his day. Only ended up completing 137 laps, came home in 12th position, not the day he wanted, but I'm confident, that wasn't his own doing. Obviously, he had some obvious issues there. So, not the day that Jarrett Butcher wanted. It happens. It's part of racing. I'm sure he'll pick it up next time for the IWK 250 is actually the next race we're getting ready for. So, can't wait to see him back in good shape there. By lap 30, he went a lap down. So, again, obvious issues. When the 54 goes a lap down by lap 30, it's not good for him. So, tough day for Jarrett Butcher and the whole Butcher Racing crew. Lap 34, Chris Hughes, was up there, but just didn't seem to be able to maintain the pace. And by lap 34, he dropped down to 11th position. And by lap 25, the 25 of Ryan Bynera-Scott spun out and brought out a caution. So, issues there for him. Not sure what the issue was, but spun out, brought out a caution. Restart ensued. And by lap 34, you had the 42 of Kyle Reed still up front, alongside the 89 of Danny Chisholm, followed by the 41 and the 13 of Austin McDonald side by side, followed by the 31 of Chris Reed and the 0 of Sam Rogers. Then you had the 08 of Nicholas Noggle, the 25G, and the 25, and the 88. So lap 34, that is how your field was shaping up. And the 89 to the lead off of that restart. So Danny Chisholm, there he was, making his way up front. So by lap 48, he was still leading with the 42 of Kyle Reed next to him. The 13 and the 41 were behind them, followed by the 31 next to the 08 and the 88. So there was your lead pack. And by that point, Jared Butcher was several laps down. By lap 56, you had the 08 looking racy, Nicholas Noggle up to P5. Lap 62, you had the 13 of Austin McDonald making his way up the field, up to P2 by then. Lap 70, the 08 kept making his way up, grabbing another position up to P4. And by that point, you kind of had a top 4 breakaway pack stabilizing of the 89 of Danny Chisholm running with the 13 of Austin McDonald, as well as the 42 of Kyle Reed and the 08 of Nicholas Noggle. That was your sort of breakaway pack there for a little bit. Lap 80 saw our competition caution, and of course you had the 89 and the 13 side by side on that restart, followed by the 42 and the 08, followed by the 88 and the 31 of Chris Reed, looking racy, making his way back up front, followed by the 41 and the 25 and the 56 and the 0. So lap 86, you had the 56 of Josh Collins pitting with an issue, although that would not be the end of the day for him. Lap 93, the 08 of Nicholas Noggle made his way up to P3, so climbing and climbing and climbing. So your lead pack by then was the 89 of Danny Chisholm with the 42 of Kyle Reed, the 08 of Nicholas Noggle, and the 13 of Austin McDonald. So you had a gap there to then the next pack of the 31 of Chris Reed, the 88 of Russell Smith Jr., and then another gap to the 41 of Mike Rogers and the 25 of Ryan Van Orscott racing side by side. And then yellow checkered comes out on lap 120. So the restarting order was the 89 of Danny Chisholm with the 42 of Kyle Reed on the front row, followed by the 13 and the 08, then followed by the 31 and the 88, then the 41 and the 25. On that restart, huge crash in turn one of the biggest wrecks we've seen in recent years on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour, not necessarily in terms of violence, but in terms of number of cars involved. At one point, I counted as many as 12 cars involved in that wreck, including some leaders, the 42 and the 08, and the 41 and the 89, the 13, ended up being okay. The 88 was also involved. The 31, the 30, the 11V of Jordan Vino, and the 56 of Josh Collins, all getting piled up in that huge wreck on that restart after the yellow checkered on lap 120. So, I mean, we've seen the TV replay. It looks like the 42 of Kyle Reed is going ahead of the 89 of Danny Chisholm, who's the control car before the restart. Flagman Stephen Austin does not like that. And everybody just wrecks into turn one after it looks like the 89 of Danny Chisholm basically tail slaps the 42 of Kyle Reed, and everybody wrecks. At that point, to be honest with you, I thought the day was over for a lot of competitors, and indeed it was. However, not nearly as many as I thought. We had quite a few survivors come out of this, some for a long time after, some not for a very long time after. The 56, I guess we should start with the 25 of Ryan Van Orscott coming out with a superb tape job on the front of that thing. Unfortunately had to abandon on lap 147. You had the 56 of Josh Collins not making any further than lap 146. Jordan Vino, Stephen Lively, Jarrett Butcher, Russell Smith Jr., Chris Reed, Sam Rogers, and Kyle Reed were in some way or another victims of that crash. Some left us earlier, some left us later. But these were the victims of this huge incident in turn one. So a race of attrition, definitely. You saw many of them who could come out. The red flag was brought out, obviously. It was a parking lot between turns 1 and 2. Kyle Reed got out of his car. I'm pretty sure his helmet was on fire because he was mad. And he went to yell at the driver of the first red car he saw, which was not Danny Chisholm, but he raced up to the window of the zero, Sam Rogers. Later apologized, is my understanding. And the zero team of Sam Rogers said, well, I guess we need to make our number bigger for the next race. So, definitely tempers flared following that big wreck. So red flag, lots of power issues, I should say, during the race as well. The power kept cutting on and off at the track. We had lights, we didn't have lights. We had PA, we didn't have PA. Lots of power cuts. And, thankfully, Donald Chisholm and crew were able to get it fixed by bringing in backup generators, and we were able to finish the feature. But, an eventful day at Riverside. And after that big wreck, after that huge wreck, your restarting order was the 89 of Danny Chisholm and the 13 of Austin McDonald on the front row, followed by the 88 of Russell Smith Jr. and the 25G of Gage Gilby, the 08 of Nicholas Snoggle, and the 31 of Chris Reed in the third row. So here we go again. Green flag is dropped. Lap 123, the 31 of Chris Reed gets loose, and the zero can't avoid him on the backstretch. And gets into him. Caution is brought out, so we have a restart on lap 123, and still you had the 89 as the control car next to the 13 of Austin McDonald. Behind them was the 25G and the 08, followed by the 41 of Mike Rogers and the 32 of Chris Hughes. Lap 131, you have the 88 hitting the pits. Russell Smith Jr., unfortunately, probably a casualty of the earlier big crash. Simply can't keep it going. And then lap 145, by that point, we're 5 laps from the end. The 13 looks fast. Austin McDonald, what a job. He looks fast, but he just doesn't look like he has quite enough for the 89 of Danny Chisholm. And we had a final caution brought out on lap 148 when the 30 of Stevie Lively and the 56 of Josh Collins get together in turn 1. So we're going to have basically a green-white checker on a last restart of the race. And Austin McDonald, try as he might, just didn't have enough for Danny Chisholm, but raced him very respectfully. I love the respect between these two. Austin was fast, but just didn't have enough. Just didn't have enough speed for the 89 of Danny Chisholm, who in his 6th start, I believe, on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour, picks up his first checkered flag. And, what a race. What a race for Danny, who's known for short run speed, but not necessarily long run speed. He gets to put it together in front of a huge crowd after running in the 19 Janny King Shoreline trading car earlier in the day. Gets to put it together at home in Nova Scotia after competing in the NASCAR Canada Series and then taking the wheel of the 89 car unexpectedly. The plan was for Donald Chisholm to take the wheel. And boy, let me tell you, in Victory Lane, we had one happy Donald Chisholm. I'll tell you that much. Rough night for the crew, obviously, with the power outages, but pulled it together. And the 89 picks up his very first checkered flag on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. What a day. Danny Chisholm wins, followed by the 13 of Austin McDonald, and the 08 of Nicholas Snoggle rounds out the podium, followed by Mike Rogers in 4th place, Gage Gilby in 5th place, another solid top 5 finish from the rookie from Enfield, followed by the 32 of Chris Hughes in 6th, Gary Elliott in 7th. Got to be best finish for Gary, I think, on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. And then you have the 25 of Ryan Van Arscott in 8th, Josh Collins in 9th, and the 11V of Jordan Vino rounds out your top 10. I made my way down to the track after the race and got comments from the top 3 finishers. It was a bit rushed because we had to make way for the second feature of the NASCAR Canada Series race. It was getting late because of the power outages, so didn't have much time, but here's comments from your top 3 finishers for the RJ Poirier Heavy Equipment 150 at Riverside.
Here we are on the grid tonight after the race with Nicholas Snoggle, the 08. Nick, how in the world did you pull off this 3rd place? with half a car?
I don't know there. We had a really good car tonight and unfortunately got tangled up in some childish acts from other people, and unfortunately that's part of this game. We were lucky enough to bring it back home third, but I got a lot of work to do this week putting this thing back together.
Well, third place finish, good result. It'll look good in the points, but like you said, a lot of work this week, but congrats on a tough third place tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. Walking up to our second place finisher, Austin McDonald. Second place tonight. What a wild night. How did you pull off the second place?
We had a good car from the start of the night. I mean, we just paced, and I started 9th or 10th and kind of just hung out for a little bit, made some smart decisions to get up through the field. Pushed a little bit hard in the start. I think we just didn't have much left in the end. We were really good on long run speed, and then with all that commotion and stopping and everything, we got our tires so cold I couldn't get them back up to temp. So that's I don't know. We did our best here, and I mean, it's a good race between me and Danny, and clean race, and I'm happy with the result.
Congratulations on the second place tonight.
Thank you.
We are trying to make our way here to the winner, first-time winner on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour, Danny Chisholm. What a race. I mean, he was fast all day, really fast car after an unfortunate crash in his NASCAR Canada series earlier today. He picks up his first win on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. Let's see if we can get a word in with him now. We are making our way. Yeah. Danny Chisholm, what a race today. Congratulations, buddy. You got your first Pro Stock win.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. I can't thank these guys enough. George and Donald, they're the best.
Thank you so much, Danny. Congrats, man. Well, we didn't get a lot of time with Danny. A quick word, because they are really rushing this, because we have another NASCAR Canada race to get in here. So, yeah, this thing's all a little bit rushed.
Whew, that thing was rushed. You guys can tell. I mean, as I'm recording my final comments after speaking with Danny post-race, you can hear the NASCAR Canada officials saying, all right, everybody, get off, get out of here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get off and get out of here until, well, let's see, until the IWK 250 on July 20th. But I'll let you in on a little secret. We might have a special episode of the podcast coming out in the next week or two about the history of the 250s on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. We've got two of them. We've got the IWK 250, we've got the Summer Clash 250, and you know, we know those are special races, but sometimes you gotta stop and ask yourself, why is that? What is the history of those races? Why do they mean so much? Why are the stands always full at the Riverside International Speedway for the IWK 250? Why do the NASCAR stars come? And why are the stands always packed for the 3-day festival at Scotia Speed World that is the Summer Clash 250, brought to you by Superior Foundations and Atlantic Tilt Load? So we're going to lean into that next week or so. A little history lesson on the 250s on the Maritime Pro Stock Tour. Send us your questions, send us your comments, maritimeprostocktour.com. Podcast at maritimeprostocktour.com is the email. Can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, keep your belts tight and your hands on the wheel.